Good morning and welcome to the Fall Faculty Lecture. I had one of my TAs do some research on this, and we discovered that somewhere around 1959, a group of King faculty and students had invited somebody from elsewhere to come and speak, and they didn't like it, and they thought we could do something just as good. And so they started doing the fall and spring faculty and student lectures. So it's a tradition that goes back a long way at King. They used to be held in the evening, and eventually they moved to morning convocation. And many of King's best loved and best known faculty have been in this position, and it's a delight this morning to welcome Tommie to continue that long tradition at King. I do have a couple of quick announcements, and I'm going to hand it over to Katie Harless to introduce Tommie. We have another event next Monday. This will be country music writer and memoirist Drew Bratcher. He's a great, great writer. He's written for Oxford America, and he's written for all kinds of leading Southern lit and music journals. And he'll be here in the morning at 9:15 next week on Monday morning, and then he'll be at the Birthplace of Country Music Museum that night. Following that, we have, at the end of the month, on October 30th, our student lecture for the fall, which will be given by Aidan Swatzel. We then have a couple of pretty big events coming in November, but I'll leave those for the moment, and I'm going to ask Katie to come and introduce our speaker.
Good morning, everyone. As he just said, I'm Katie Harless. I'm a senior in the nursing program here at King, and today I have the distinct honor of introducing you to an extraordinary educator and mentor, Professor Tommie Loudy. In the world of nursing, we often hear about the importance of dedication, mentorship, and advocacy. Well, let me tell you about someone who embodies these qualities like no other. Ms. Loudy is not just a teacher, she's a guiding light in our journey to becoming the best nurses we can be. If you ask any nursing program alum, they'll tell you about the profound impact she's had on their lives. Throughout my 4 years at King, Ms. Loudy has been more than an advisor. She's been a mentor, a shoulder to lean on, and a driving force behind my success. I genuinely believe that I wouldn't be standing here today without her unwavering support and guidance. Ms. Loudy doesn't just talk the talk, she walks the walk. As a registered nurse at Sycamore Shoals Emergency Department, she exemplifies the qualities of an exceptional emergency room nurse: dedication, focus, time management, and patient advocacy. She's not afraid to stand up for what she believes in, whether that's in a clinical setting or in the classroom. What sets Ms. Loudy apart is that she leads by example. She challenges us not only to know the material, but to understand it and be able to apply it to real-world situations. She often says, "I've been to Paris," reminding us that she walked in our shoes and survived nursing school. What she doesn't often mention is that she did this while raising 2 kids and working a full-time job. This is a true testament to her work ethic. And now she's taking on a new challenge, pursuing her nurse practitioner degree. It's no surprise that she continues to push herself to new heights. I'm incredibly thankful to have had Ms. Loudy in my corner throughout my time at King, and I know her impact will continue to shape our lives for years to come. So without further ado, please join me in giving a warm and enthusiastic welcome to Professor Tommie Loudy.
Good morning. I started to text Katie the other day and say, please don't say anything that's going to make me cry. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I guess I should start with how I got here today, and it's actually pretty funny. These 8 students right here, not whom all 8 will admit to the role that they played in me being here today. Picture it. It's leadership class in Nice Wonder Hall, and one of these students decides to read their email from Miss Leona Jennings asking for students to nominate an instructor to speak during convocation. So it took one student to instigate this. So, faculty, it only takes probably 2 or 3 students to get you nominated to be here. This is the cohort of the spring 2023. And the interesting thing about this group of students is that they will forever be special to me because I had the honor of pinning them at the pinning ceremony in the spring. And also, the shorter male student, Nate, I actually have known him for quite some time. I met him my very first year of teaching at the secondary level, and I'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. So I ran into Professor Osborne shortly after spring honors convocation. He was walking the oval, so I decided to interrupt his cardio. And I asked him, what are we supposed to talk about? And he said, pretty much anything you want to. You can talk about your research. And I put the walls down right then, because he definitely lost my attention after he said the word research. So I reached out to Dr. Dotterwack, and his response was this: the faculty lecture can take on many forms. For some folks, it's about their research, something they care about. Well, I care about a lot of things, but you necessarily may not care about the same things. For some, it's more personal, like the death of a parent. I have lost a parent, but I just assume not share that with you all this morning. He went on to say, whichever kind of talk it is, we like to foreground the ways in which King faculty exemplify faith-engaging culture. This doesn't mean doing a sermon, thank goodness. It means articulating the ways in which faith shapes your approach to profession, research, life, and how faith may be challenged and shaped by the things you are studying or doing. The other basic guideline is to communicate to a broad group of undergraduates in a lively and accessible way. So then I decided to poll people here on campus. If you were to hear a faculty guest lecturer, what would you want to hear about? And here are some of their responses, most of which came from one nursing student in particular. The U.S. education system, or the U.S. healthcare system, or how either of those compare to those in other countries. Many students replied with mental health issues. Well, I will leave that to Miss Braddock, our school counselor, and also Professor Heldreth and Dr. Moore in the School of Nursing. Many also said, tell us ER stories. Well, some of you just came from breakfast, and I'm sure some of you would like to go to lunch. Besides, my nursing students have already heard the best ones. Travel nursing, now there's a way to make good money and see the world. Extinction of sea turtles and coral reef was another topic. Well, as much as I do love the ocean, we don't offer a marine biology degree here, so I'll pass. Another nursing student said something along the lines of neurofrequency waves, and I immediately said hard no. And then last but not least, here's an interesting one, conspiracy theories. Some specific conspiracy theories, such as, did the moon landings really happen? Or, who really shot JFK? And is a zombie apocalypse really possible? Still at a loss for a topic, I turned to my friend Google to see if there's anything interesting that happened on this day, October 9th. Did you know that today is Columbus Day? In 1888, on this day, the public was admitted to the Washington Monument for the first time. In 1936, Boulder Dam began producing electricity and transmitted it to Los Angeles, California, a place later named for President Hoover. Today is also National Leif Erikson Day. For those of you that are sport lovers, in 1905, the first sanctioned baseball World Series began, and the New York Giants beat the Philadelphia A's 3-1. In 1921, with an injured and infected forearm 3 days prior while sliding into third base, Babe Ruth hit his first World Series home run. For those of you that are lovers of the music and the arts, Beatles' John Lennon was born. In 1986, The Phantom of the Opera made its theatrical debut. For those of you that are food lovers, today is National Moldy Cheese Day. It's also National Pro-Life Cupcake Day and International Pizza Day. Shout out to the cafe for serving it every day, though, right? Despite my research, I'm still at a loss for choosing a topic. And then I remembered something extremely important I learned here at King in my educational journey. Anytime you're writing a paper or giving a presentation, know your audience. So I asked myself, who are the people sitting here possibly listening to what I'm saying today? Well, I see my nursing colleagues, most of whom are way smarter than I will ever be. My supervisors who sign off on my evaluations, and the provost who decides if my contract gets renewed every year. IT, who got here early to make sure I didn't have any tech issues, and last but not least, my students, who are the most important reason for me being here today. Sorry guys, still no light bulb moment. Then I turned to the King University website where I discovered the following information in regard to the KU Institute for Faith and Culture for a final attempt to be inspired. Is it on? Okay. Here's what I found. Quote, with annual topics that have ranged from fear, uncertainty, and brokenness to faith, redemption, hope, and wisdom, the conversations that take place at King University's Institute for Faith and Culture lead us into spaces of wonder and remind us how God plants different gifts in each of us in order to benefit all of us. Furthermore, the word convocation is defined on the KU website as, quote, an intellectual forum for presentation of ideas that could change our way of thinking about and perceiving the major issues of our culture and word. So in just one word in that last paragraph made my wheels start spinning. And then I realized, what could possibly go wrong? Well, I get an email from Dr. Dodderwijk asking me all these questions within the last week, and I'm like, now I know why you wait until a week before convocation to ask all of these questions. And the main question that he asked that I could not answer was, what is the title of your presentation? And so he posted that it was going to be a surprise, but little did he know it actually was going to be a surprise to me too. So I thought, to put a spin on things and to encourage students to listen, that I would give away a gift if you will send me an email after convocation today and tell me what you think the title of my presentation should be today. Nursing students, you don't get to play, but you get to vote on the winner. Shannon L. Alder stated, author Shannon L. Alder stated, carve your name on hearts and not tombstones. A legacy is etched into the minds of others in the stories they share about you. Merriam-Webster's definition of legacy is something such as memories or knowledge that comes from the past or from a person from the past. Words synonymous with legacy are inheritance, heritage, tradition, and gift. These synonyms make me think of grandmothers bestowing cherished pearls to their beloved granddaughters on their wedding day. Mothers sharing with their daughters that secret ingredient to Mama's famous Christmas pie. Fathers and granddads passing down pocket watches, guns, and maybe even that coveted baseball card collection. While these items are all materialistic in nature, each does share a common thread. The common thread is that each possession takes one's mind back to a time and a place where precious memories were made with the respective person or relative. And those memories are the legacy. So how does this apply to us as students, faculty, human beings, and followers of Jesus Christ? Well, I'll tell you. Welcome to my TED Talk. Everyone says, no matter how much you despise the high school years, you will one day miss them. This statement never applied to me, and I can honestly say I never missed high school. However, the good Lord above either has a sense of humor or he felt I deserved a do-over. So how does someone like me end up back in the very place that I despised going to for 4 years of my life? Well, I'll tell you. It's actually an interesting story. So get your popcorn and your junior mints ready. My mom used to say, an idle mind is the devil's playground. She said when I was growing up. However, I had to become an adult to understand exactly what she meant. During my 6th grade year, after my parents divorced, my mom sold our house and we downsized to a small bedroom home. right down here on Florida Avenue. My sister was off to college at the end of the next school year, which meant until then we had to share a room. I got to know my neighbors pretty well. They were all elderly. I would ride my bicycle up and down the street, stopping to talk to them often. One couple who lived directly across the street seemed to live on their front porch, and every time I was outside, there they were. Eventually, I made my way to their porch. Many days my mom would come home and find me sitting and visiting with them. The older woman, she was wheelchair bound, and she smelled bad. But I never seemed to mind. I thought I knew why, or could figure out why. The summer before my ninth grade year, I learned that just at the end of the street, I could catch the city bus for a big whopping quarter. Hop on another bus at the exchange place, and I could ride to the mall. I could go visit my mom at work. And I noticed on each of these paths was the hospital. So somehow I got involved in volunteering at the hospital. First, it was filling water pitchers on patient floors, and that became boring. Then I got to work in the gift shop, and that was fun for a while. Then the volunteer services coordinator, she sensed that I needed some excitement in my life. Welcome to the emergency room. By this time, I had completed 1 year of high school health science, and I was well versed in medical terminology and how to get vital signs. The triage nurses, they were fabulous. They would let me help get vital signs. They would let me chart on patients, and they would let me take patients to their rooms. I even got to help them get undressed and into their gowns. Other cool things they let me do were carry specimens to the lab, fetch items like crutches and ACE wraps for providers, and even wheel patients out to their car when they were discharged. Needless to say, I was hooked. I officially became an adrenaline junkie nurse wannabe at that point in life. And then life continued to happen. Sometimes life happens in a not so orderly fashion that you imagine, yet I wouldn't change the circumstances in my life to be orderly either. Fast forward to age 23, I'm now married and I have 2 children. I remember having a conversation with my older sister who lived in Florida at the time, and she said to me, Tommie, you need to get a job or go to school. Don't be trapped without knowing how to support your family in case anything ever happens to Eddie. Eddie is my hubby, by the way. She didn't want me to struggle like our mother did after our parents divorced. So I enrolled in community college, and I made good grades too. After 2 years, I applied to nursing school, and I was accepted. Unfortunately, 2 weeks into the program, there were work schedules and childcare issues, and I had to withdraw. 2 years later, though, I reapplied and was accepted again. I struggled that first semester, almost failed a class, but I knew I had people depending on my success, my husband and my children. I knew that I had people rooting for me, my sister, my friends. And at age 30, I finally completed the Associate of Applied Science degree in nursing, and I passed boards the first time. Guess where I went to work? I worked in the emergency room for almost 5 years, and in those 5 years, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I loved precepting, EMTs, paramedics, nursing students. And I learned that despite my adrenaline addiction, I needed a more family-friendly schedule. Slowly, I realized that God was working on my heart. He was grooming me for something better. Within 2 weeks of each other, my best friend Jennifer and my husband made the same comment to me, neither one knowing that the other had done so. They said, you know, you'd be a great teacher one day. I laughed hysterical. I told them they were both crazy. Well, within a year, guess what I was doing? Remember, I said at the beginning of this story, God has a sense of humor. So in 2010, I became the health science instructor at Cherokee High School. I had no idea what I was doing. My pay was 40% less than what I earned at the hospital. But one thing I did know, at the end of every day, all of my students were pink, warm, and breathing. I got a scheduled lunch break, and I could go to the bathroom anytime I wanted. Life was good. Until I realized I had to go back to school to keep my job. Pretty sure I said 1,000 times, I'm never going back to school. 3 years and 4 classes later, I met the requirements to earn the Professional Educator Occupational Certificate. Essentially, for 9 years, I went to work to be a cheerleader. Although some days I felt more like the head football coach, giving tough love, pushing students to do more than the bare minimum and to be more than mediocre. Then one day on my drive home from school, I was listening to the radio and I heard about a contest to basically get a free education at King University. I had been considering going back for my BSN, but I was afraid I couldn't do it. And then someone said to me, you know, you need to practice what you preach to your students. Wow. So I gathered up all the requirements, I wrote the essay, and guess what? I didn't win. A few days later, I remember sitting on the couch, staring at an email from Nancy Beverly over in admissions. Her email stated if I wanted to enroll, all I would need in addition to the nursing classes was a history class. So when my husband came home, I read him the email and he said, do it. So I replied to Nancy's email before either one of us could change our minds. I got student loans and we decided we would worry about paying for it later. The result led to meeting 2 of my now best friends, Samantha and Ashley, graduating with distinction, and this really cool thing called loan forgiveness because I taught science in a low-income school. Life was good again. Talk about divine guidance. And I knew I wanted to continue my education in the hopes of teaching college one day. I took 2 semesters off, and it's a good thing I did because 2 months after graduation, we almost lost my husband's dad. Fast forward to August of 2017, and I'm enrolled in the MSN Nurse Educator program at King University. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, we got a phone call from my mom's neighbor. He had to call 911 because she stopped breathing. And let me tell you, seeing your loved one on a ventilator is one of the worst things ever. As a nurse, I used to tell patients, you know, you should really stop smoking. But since that day, seeing her like that, I now make it a point to ask patients who smoke, do you really want your son or daughter to see you lying in a bed with a breathing tube down your throat, connected to life support? That kind of changes their perspective. My mom came off the vent, though, just in time for my favorite holiday, Thanksgiving. After graduating in April 2019 with my family and my support system by my side, I made the jump to teach college nursing. Guess where? Right here at King. And after 4 years of teaching here at King, guess what someone said to me? They said, you know, Tommie, you'd be a great nurse practitioner. My points today are these. Number 1, persevere through the roadblocks and the obstacles. Remember this story in the Bible of David and Goliath? If God allows a Goliath to stand in your way, it's because he believes there is a David inside of you. Number 2, put positivity in your mind. Your mind will believe what you tell it, so tell it that you are smart, you are worthy, and God has blessed you with many gifts. Number 3, pay attention to the people in your circle. A Harvard study found that 99% of your personal success depends on one thing, and it is who you associate with. Although we are human, we can and will absorb the characteristics, behaviors, and outlooks of those that we choose to spend time with, so choose wisely. Remember, it was because of a friend's faith that Jesus healed the paralyzed man. So, get you a partner who makes sacrifices and supports your dreams. Get you an Angie who will tell you to do something with your life. Get you a Jennifer who will tell you you're going to be an awesome teacher one day. Get you a Gabby
who will cheer for you in front of everyone during honors convocation because she is proud of your accomplishments. And get you an Andrew who will tell you, you know, you should make a TED Talk one day. You'd be really good at that.
If we put someone else on instead of him, because that's another angle.
Happy to say that was a first in so many ways. And it was great. Thank you so much, Tommie. We particularly liked the way that you had choreographed the Monday Night Football music just to come in right at that inspirational moment. It worked really well. That's what it was. We are all certainly warm and breathing at the end of that. Thank you so much, Tommie. We have a plaque. Please join me in thanking Tommie Loudy once more.